Good morning, everybody, and welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Monday, the 23rd of December. I'm Derek Clark, and to join me to talk all things Rangers, Joshua Barry joins us. How's it going, Joshua?
I'm good, mate. Pretty festive now, I must say. 2 days to the main event. So I'm well. How are you? Because you were watching the game from a nicer vantage point than usual on Saturday, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Big shout out to my good friend Aldo for his generosity. He got me some tickets for hospitality at the weekend. Took my mum and dad, who absolutely loved it, and spoiled padded seats and all that. And so brilliant, great time had by all. Food was fantastic. The drink was flowing. My dad was enjoying it. The Rangers branded whiskey, which was getting sunk into. But it was super. Big shout out as well to the train I got up from Warrington was packed with Rangers fans. It really it blew my mind how many supporters travel up on that train. Big shout out. I met Jim on the platform at Warrington. Big a hello to Jim. He was brilliant company. Judy and Andy as well got on at Preston and coming back down the road. Good to have a chat with Tam and Jamie from the World Rangers Supporters Club, and Brian and Colin as well. So it was
That's a lot. That's a lot of people. That's like a family holiday you just round off or something.
And they've probably missed guys as well and ladies, so I do apologise. But I was told it was a party train heading back down the road after Rangers games. At the train I was on, it was not quite full blown party mode, but we enjoyed it. A few beers heading back down. It was a cracking day. If you get the opportunity, folks, if you ever get the chance to do the hospitality at Ibrox, I'd very much recommend it. It was a brilliant experience. The game, it was probably a largely forgettable game. Rangers were comfortable, Joshua, in the end. 1-0, it was a proper 3 points and up the road. The conditions weren't too great, to be honest. Good to see Rangers wearing that Ibrox kit. It was an absolute beauty. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing that more, I've got to say. But of course, the 125th anniversary game at Ibrox, I think Rangers were relatively comfortable throughout. Never looked at any point in serious danger, you've got to say, but would have liked them to have made it more comfortable than what it was in the end.
Yeah, obviously it turns out to be actually a pretty good weekend for them because Aberdeen lost, meaning that they've got back into second. And there was a time when Rangers lost that. It wasn't just kind of overblown rhetoric. When Rangers went away and lost to Aberdeen in, what was that there, earlier November, October, like that wasn't... The narrative at the time, Rangers aren't the second best team in the country. I don't think in that moment that was overblown. Yes, maybe with a bit of hindsight you can say it was, but 9 points seemed like a big gap to make up. So that was a good way for them to start the weekend. Obviously, they cut the gap somewhat to the top at Celtic. Still, I think that's a big ask to get back into the title race. But yeah, overall, it was a good weekend. I kind of agreed with you. I came away from that game. I was thinking, I've not watched it back yet, but I was thinking about it yesterday. And I was thinking, especially looking at the chance numbers, which we'll pull up in a second, Derek, I was thinking, what was it too harsh in judging that game? Because I kind of thought it wasn't like a 1-0 Hearts performance, but equally, I didn't think it was a great performance. I thought that while Rangers had opportunities, that game still felt a little bit out of control without Rangers ever being in danger, because Dundee really did sit in. And I guess you've got to consider that when the fact that I don't think Dundee really crossed their halfway line bar a free kick chance in the first half. So you do have to consider that with the pace and the tempo of the game. It wasn't quite the levels of maybe tempo on the ball that you saw Rangers display against Kilmarnock, which I think people would like to see a bit more. But I'll pull up the race chart here, Derek, if you get rid of all the nonsense around it. Ended up Dundee at 1% chance of winning on the basis of expected goals. This is only taking shots that moves that actually ended in shots 3.323 xG to 0.34. And where I do think you need to give Rangers credit is when they were sneaking games 1-0 or winning by a 1-0 margin, whether that be Hearts at home or St Mirren at home, Dundee United away, all games that come to mind, that margin was a lot smaller and it was kind of just one good opportunity they were creating. What you'd say in relation to this game is they created two kind of really high value chances they should have scored. The Hamza Gamal one which he somehow hit the bar from. He had another good opportunity as well, and obviously the goal that Václav Černý scores. I guess the concern would be in extra time. That number should be higher if Ross McCausland squares it or Dessers does. It's 3 or 4 moments for Rangers. So a bit of a strange game in that it should have been more comfortable. 1-0 wasn't very reflective. Still felt like they were a little bit too reliant on, when they're 1-0 up and it's 70 minutes, I think you'd like to see a team control the game a little bit more. I don't know what you felt about that, but I think it is important to look at the actual chance creation numbers and say they are getting better in the league, which is something that Rangers were criticised for up to about a month ago.
Yep. First half, there's not really many complaints. Rangers were well on top, dominated. The game largely went how I expected. Heading up the road, I sort of felt that Tony Docherty would make life difficult for Rangers and be up to the onus would be on Rangers to try and break Dundee down, which you can't blame them for that. I mean, it doesn't make for a great spectacle, but if they open up, then more often than not, you'll get picked off. So I can understand why they would do that. Rangers unlucky on a number of occasions. Yanis Hadji came close. Tavernier, of course, struck the bar as well. I think 4 times Rangers hit the bar on Saturday. But then you're thinking when Václav Černý runs through, a bit of a muted celebration. I never wasn't celebrating either because it was one of those ones you felt it was going to go to VAR anyway and be flagged for offside, but it was on. So great ball through from Danilo and then good finish from Černý rounding the goalkeeper, which came off this time. But then you're thinking that's the start of the second half. Rangers will now go on. Dundee will sort of have a go and Rangers can go on and open them up and score a few more goals. So it was disappointing in that sense that they weren't able to add to the goal tally. Again, I think criticism that was sort of directed to them on last Sunday, Joshua, was the fact that they're perhaps a little too erratic when presented with good chances in the final third. I think that was sort of a criticism. Again, it's fair to be levelled at them on Saturday. Ross McCausland should have took his opportunities when they came his way. Hamza Igaman had a chance as well, but it's that sort of cutting edge in the final third that you would like to think that they can improve upon, because I think it cost them dearly a glorious opportunity against Celtic when it was a 4-on-1, and they really should have put Saturday to bed earlier than the full-time whistle when it sounded. Yeah,
I totally agree with that, and I think on an individual basis that you can see that, for example, Danilo's still, he's still in the first month or so of playing after effectively being out for almost a year. So there's going to be little dips, but he still creates that goal, still has moments of real quality, and his link up with Černý, I think, is something that has been really noticeable since he came back into the team. Hamza Igaman still has moments where I think you can see he's maturing, whether that be where he shoots from or certain decisions he makes. I think if you watch when Rangers are attacking the box at the moment, sometimes Igaman's kind of hanging back, or he's maybe not quite learned exactly where he should be. But equally, you still see in games like that the quality that he has. The moment where he should score and his shot's kind of cleared off the line, if that isn't cleared off the line, we're talking about a fantastic individual goal. And he brings so much variation, I think, to Rangers. That's what always stands out to me about him. Sometimes he's on the right, sometimes he's on the left. It's just more difficult to defend, and a large part that Rangers' attack has looked better is because of that. However, I still think it's a front four that are getting to know one another, Derek. I still think it's a front four that's missing an out-and-out winger, like Oscar Cortez on that left-hand side, to just give a little bit more directness at points and pace, and just in that, because as we've discussed plenty of times before, Černý is someone who always wants to move more often than not inside. I know he goes around the goalkeeper on his right foot at the weekend, but he always wants to move inside onto that right foot, doesn't he? And that 4v1 moment, the 3v1 moment in Nice, there was other opportunities in the Old Firm Cup final and the Tottenham game as well. I think where at points I still feel Rangers are a little bit too, I don't know if erratic's the right word, but they do like a shot from range. I think when probably an extra pass is required. Now, whether that is, again, as we've mentioned before, is it just a front four getting to know one another? It's a team that's changed quite a lot. Is it a byproduct of the type of football that Clement wants to play, which is aggressive and doesn't want to hold the ball in deep areas for a long amount of time? He wants to get the ball forward quickly. We've seen that right through his Rangers career. It's probably somewhere in the middle for me, but I agree. It's clearly without wanting to be too critical of what was a comfortable win and should have been more comfortable. You know, Egerman should score that chance in front of goal.
Yeah.
Rangers should finish one of their breakaway chances and in extra time. And while then you're still looking at them not having created a ton in the first half, you probably have to give quite a lot of consideration to the fact that that was really an attack versus defence drill. And sometimes we say that in a cliche way in Scottish football, but that was Dundee, and you know, they opened up more in the second half, and that's when Rangers managed to go and score. But I do think that it's a valid criticism that still when they attack into space, they don't quite have that clarity of action of what they're going to do, and obviously that harmed them in the cup final. I think it's a little bit of a byproduct of how they play, and also just the fact that there's a lot of new relationships forming on the pitch, and a lot of players playing now who maybe even McCausland, we've hardly seen McCausland this season due to that foot injury, which is really stagnated this season. That's not allowed Cherney much of a rest, so that's another I think example of a player just getting up to speed who really hasn't been available for the majority of the campaign, really.
Yeah, I was going to bring up McCausland because he's come in for a bit of criticism. A few comments coming in as well on it. Derek with a point says, are you guys concerned regarding McCausland? He seems to be well below required standard, apart from a burst of short pace. I really don't know what he's offering, but I think, he's not in the best of form. But like you say, Joshua, he has been struggling with injuries this season, so he hasn't had a consistent run of games. I did touch on he should have took his opportunity. That could be a confidence issue. I mean, I know he's some feel that he's not good enough to play for Rangers. I'm not writing him completely off just yet. I think it's unfair with him at this moment in time. Never had a good game when he came on, but there is flashes in there that I'm willing to give him time. And like you say, Václav Černý hasn't often had an opportunity to get a breather and a rest, so he did have that on Saturday. This from Denzel was interesting. He was warming up on Saturday. I was hoping to see him. He says, wondering why Cortez isn't getting a few minutes here and there. He must be fit enough if he's on the bench instead of McCausland, who did very little. You surprised Cortez never get an opportunity on Saturday, Joshua?
Not when it was 1-0, and we can come back to McCausland because I think there's a few interesting points within there, but not when it was 1-0, because Clement has effectively said as much that, and this extends to other players, even Danilo a little bit at the start of the season, that he only really wants to introduce players effectively when they're, because although that game we're saying it was comfortable, it was still kind of Dundee or one long ball cross, good individual run from making it 1-1, and they did have one moment around about the 90-minute mark. I think it was offside, but there was understandably a few nerves around the stadium, so I wasn't surprised, because that Clement doesn't really tend to chuck players in when they're coming back from injury unless it's like a 2 or 3-0 game. And he said as much recently, maybe it depends on the game state, if he's able to introduce those players. So would have liked to see Cortez. I think it's important the Rangers get him up to speed. I think they've been very careful with how they do that because of his history at the club so far. But he's a player who, there was a lot of excitement when he came into the building, and that's kind of had to be tempered really consistently because he's had all these injury issues, Derek. But you need a winger in that front four. I think it really lacks one at the moment. Even though Haji's done well out there, I still don't think that's his ideal area of the pitch. And on McCausland, I think that I don't know what his numbers are overall. If we're only looking at goals and assists, and I think that can be a bit misleading. But I don't think they'd be a poor reflection of the minutes he's played in the team. Do I think he's a good enough player to be the out-and-out first choice Rangers right winger? No. But I think he's contributed more than others have. He's had those injury issues really ever since actually that tackle in the Motherwell game way back in, what was that, March time, when Rangers lost 2-1 at home. If you remember, that kind of disrupted his season then. And Clement's trusted him in the big games. He played in Real Betis away really early into his kind of professional Rangers career. And so he's had a little bit of hard luck with injuries over the course of the past year. I guess the difficult thing you'd say for a young player is once they've broken in and had the kind of the good luck and the goodwill that a young player will have when they break into the first team and they have the support on side. He's now no longer seen as a young player. He's seen as a member of the first team, and a member of the first team who hasn't played that much. So his decision making, I thought, was improving at points last season. Clement's spoken about the fact that he'd never move inside and shoot on his left foot. He spoke about that after the Malmo game when he did do that and sealed the game for Rangers. So I don't think he's going to overtake Václav Černý, but But I do think if Rangers can get him back to levels that he was showing last season, he gives not only competition, but again, just that option of changing things at the hour mark, which is going to be important over the next month or so, because there's just it's midweek after midweek game, isn't it? That decision making I thought was poor from kind of all three players in the final third in extra time, because there was like 3 or 4 moments where they had an overload, and I think probably on each occasion they chose the wrong option.
Yeah, they're going to have to get better at that. Just a subscription question from a George Thompson that's popped in. George, happy birthday, first of all, buddy. If you want any question on subscription, send us a DM on Twitter and we'll try and look into that for you. And many happy returns. Hopefully have a cracking day. Big shout out to you, can he do that? He says, morning, hope every bear has a great Christmas. I'll be joining the Bangkok Bears in Thailand for the Old Firm game in January. Yeah, cracking bunch of guys over there in Bangkok. You'll love that, that's for sure. They'll look after you as well over there. So slightly jealous. Let's talk about the goalkeeper, Joshua, because there was a lot of confusion around when the announcement came just a couple of minutes before kickoff that Jack Butland was being replaced by Liam Kelly for his first senior game for Rangers, his first competitive match, his senior debut, and I thought he did well. Didn't have a lot to do, Liam Kelly. I thought he distributed the ball well and was pretty comfortable between the sticks. I would have thought he would have had his opportunity before now. But there you go. But he spoke afterwards in the press conference. And before we get to that, just a big congratulations, of course, to Jack Butland. Later was confirmed that his partner, his wife, had went into labour, so he had to head over to the hospital for the arrival of their new baby. And he posted a picture, of course, on his Instagram holding said baby, and all looks well. So congratulations to Jack and Mrs. Butland and the new arrival as well. Although when I did see that, the famous Roy Keane video sprung to my mind. I think was he asked about Robbie Keane back in the day when he was assistant at Ireland? About him not being available for a match, and he says, "Well, he's not having the baby, is he?" It did make me chuckle. But I'm sure that's a valid excuse to miss a Rangers game. But let's hear what Liam Kelly had to say after the game. Apologies, folks, if you struggle to hear this. I know some have cited it as a struggle hearing the clips at some points. We've bunged the volume on as far as it will go, so hopefully you can hear what Liam had to say.
It felt unbelievable. Been at Rangers a long time, so 20 years ago I first walked through the gates of the training centre, so that's what I've waited kind of majority of my life for, and over the moon I got a clean sheet and a victory. Obviously could have been a lot more, I think everybody watching the game knows that, but I'm so happy.
I spoke to you in the summer and you were saying like, it was a big gamble for you to leave Motherwell after everything you had there, but you were only one person away from getting your opportunity. I mean, today sort of feel like that was justified in that sense?
Aye, obviously that's just why I signed, in case I was ever called upon. We did a lot of work with Colin, the goalie coach, to be ready. So in the warm-up, after I got the news that I was going to be playing, he just said, let's go, this is what we're training for. So aye, big thanks to him. Big thanks to my mum and dad, my granda. They've obviously put a lot of effort into getting me here. It took me a lot of Rangers games over the years. 14 years I was here, so they've put so much effort into me, and I'm sure they'll be glad watching that today.
There you go. That's what Liam Kelly had to say. Joshua, I'd imagine I would like to see him start the game at least against Fraserburgh coming up in the new year. What do you make of his performance?
Well, I think you say first and foremost, it was often press conferences, and people will know this watching at home. They can be very kind of mundane and rehearsed at points, not to put people off watching them. Sometimes they're not, but it was just a genuinely nice moment to see someone who Liam Kelly, who'd been at Rangers for so many years, had left and then taken the gamble in the summer, knowing that. And he was asked about this later in the press conference, knowing it could impact the Scotland chances, knowing that he was leaving a club where he was a first team goalkeeper in the Scottish Premiership at Motherwell, being the captain there, and he knew he was coming in to. While I'm sure you always hope you've got a chance of playing, he's not going to play ahead of Jack Butland when Jack Butland's fit for a number of reasons, not least because Butland is not being paid to sit on the Rangers bench. So he's waited a long time for that moment to come. So it was actually just a nice moment and for him and his family. And he referenced that, didn't he, in the clip? So yeah, fair play to him, because that's a lot of work. And I said he didn't have much to do, did he? I thought a few of his kicks were quite good. I confess to not knowing much if he is traditionally a good kicker of the ball or not, but he played that kind of pass that goalkeepers love out to the fullbacks either way pretty well. But yeah, he didn't have a save to make at all. And again, that's probably descriptive of the type of game that it was, Derek. The fact that he didn't everything he had to do was with the ball at his feet. But yeah, a really nice moment for him. And I guess being a backup goalkeeper is a difficult job, and you need the right character in a dressing room as well, and the right person to probably support that goalkeeping team. Which I think it's clear that he probably has the interests of the team ahead of himself at points. So yeah, it was a nice moment to hear him speak about that, and definitely deserved that after so many years of waiting for it.
Yeah, I've got no problem with him getting more game time. I think he's a very capable goalkeeper, and it's not as if you're just throwing in a kid in there. He's an experienced professional. He's been called up to Scotland squads in the past as well. So he was an able deputy and then some. Peggy says, congratulations to Jack and family on their new arrival. There's a lovely photo. That baby was in safe hands. Yes, absolutely. He's not dropping the baby, that's for sure. Let's move on. And as you mentioned, Joshua, at the top of the show, it turned out to be a very good weekend for Rangers. Like you say, Aberdeen, I think the bubble has burst there, losing at home to Hibs. They're on a poor run of form at this moment in time, but getting into second is one thing, which Rangers have done. Celtic then stumbled away to Dundee United yesterday in that lunchtime kickoff. The gap is now 9 points. The game on New Year, if Rangers were to win that, is it game on again, Joshua?
I'm still reticent to I don't know. I don't know what you think, but I thought the atmosphere at Ibrox on Saturday was deflated as a result of the fact that it felt like, the title at that point is gone. Obviously, the cup final defeat. What it does do is it probably breathes a little bit of life into Rangers' season, gives them a bit of good favour that they've maybe not had it at points, and it builds up to that game on the second. Outside of where Rangers are on the table and outside of how far away they are from Celtic, I think they need to win that game because it's Clement's 7th attempt, and he spoke in the lead up to the last Old Firm game about that record not being about him. And on one hand, well, I think he is genuinely someone who, and people kind of corroborate this around the club, he is someone who is pretty feeling that he puts the club ahead of himself, and that kind of argument about it's not an argument from himself that it's not about his own ego. I think there is some validity to that. You also need to beat Celtic. You need to beat Celtic if you're a Rangers manager, and if you don't do it in 7 attempts, which would include 2 home games in that, 3, 2, I don't know how many. He needs to win that game. So it puts extra emphasis on it. Obviously, Rangers have 2 games away at St Mirren and Motherwell in quick succession, which will be difficult. Clement's kind of sticking to this little bit of a tactical shift that we've seen since Igaman and Danilo came back into the squad. Dujon Sterling played at centre half, which is something that we'll probably see more of until Rangers are able to, if they are able to strengthen that centre-back position in January. Wouldn't be surprised if that's a loan deal, but would expect them to try and address that area, which they need to, because it looks light. And around the rest of the team, there is, as we mentioned with McCausland, there is a little bit of depth coming back in. But when I think of that game on the second, outside of talk of a title race or where Rangers are in relation to Celtic, I don't know about you, Derek, but I just think that for Clement's sake, he needs a big win, and you need a big domestic win to really, I think, build a bit of belief. Is that fair?
Yeah, this comment sums it up for me ahead of that game. And bearing in mind that this is just assuming Rangers win the 2 matches in between. It says, I think we have to be sensible about the league. We're not winning it this season. More important is a win over Celtic. A win over Celtic is huge, I think, for this Rangers squad, but Philip Clement as well. He gets a lot more credit in the bank if he can get that monkey off his back. We all know what happened in the League Cup final. He's going to be under real pressure in this game. I've got a funny feeling Rangers are going to turn up and win that game. I would like to think that what happened last weekend may just galvanise Rangers somewhat, and they can go on and lay down a marker on the 2nd of January. Now, big ask, of course, against Celtic, who are leading the way by 9 points at this moment in time. I just think if Rangers can get that victory, who knows what can happen. Just add a little bit of doubt onto Celtic. When you're so far in front, who knows, a wee bit of complacency may just set in. I understand that there was a bit of a sickness bug that was rife in the Celtic camp over the weekend. So you'd imagine that a few of their players will be coming back. But that game is huge. If Rangers can get the win, it's massive. If he doesn't get the win, of course, I think that the pressure will be, if the Rangers get beat, Joshua, then I can see the pressure just intensifying again on the manager. It's not something I want to think about at this moment in time.
Well, I think the record since the start of the 2021-22 season is something like Rangers have won 2 or 3 Old Firms, drawn 3 and lost 12.
Not good enough.
And I actually asked Leon Balogun about that before the cup final. And worded my question in a way he didn't understand, that he came back and effectively said, do you mean baggage? And the way he put that, I thought, that is kind of, does this squad without the baggage? Now, some players still have that, or some players are still here who might have that. I thought the way that Rangers came back in that 3-3 game, like the 3-3 game at Ibrox in April, I guess with that squad from last season, maybe isn't something we've seen a lot in this fixture. The small, if we're not talking about refereeing decisions today, I still think those small margins, the 4v1. I think if that game is flipped the other way and Celtic are 1-0 up and they have that 4v1 opportunity, they would score that. The small margins that Rangers have to overturn in that fixture will probably take longer than the duration between the cup final and the game on the 2nd. But you need like Gerrard showed, I think you need a win early on to show that you can beat Celtic. If you were to go 7 games without beating Celtic, although Clement would have come close on a number of occasions and been, really, really unfortunate and had that penalty decision taken out of his hands in the cup final, that's still a difficult record to justify. So it'll be interesting to see how much he rotates over the next couple of games. I'd expect that to be a fair amount. And I wonder what his front four will look like heading into that Old Firm game, because I still think it needs in that left-sided position. I think it needs a natural out-and-out winger for that game. Oscar Cortez is probably unlikely to be fit to start that. Maybe not fit, but match fit, given that we've not seen him so far. Is he going to get minutes at Motherwell or St Mirren? I'd like him to, Derek. But that front four of maybe a Cherney and one of 2 of 3 of Baurami, Danilo and Igaman and Cortez in the left, that I think gives Clement a much better chance of winning that. It's a front four that we've not seen so far. It will be intriguing to see who will start. Big Phil always tunes in to the show. He says psychologically 6 points would be catchable. Absolutely. Go and beat St Mirren, Motherwell and Celtic, and then see where the club is from there. Right, I just wanted to wrap up a wee bit of admin before we call time on today's show. Of course, we are in a big week, festivity-wise. Hopefully you've got all your Christmas sorted. Blazing Blue 72 says, what days is the review on over the festive period? I will tell you right now. So we're on as normal tomorrow morning, 9:30. And then myself and Johnny are recording a bit of a Q&A show where you can ask us anything. He's put out a little post on Twitter just now. I didn't know. I didn't know it was Ask Us Anything. I thought it was a Rangers Q&A. So
yeah, well, you can ask us Rangers questions or anything. So he messaged me over the weekend about the idea. So I don't know if I stupidly accepted. So yeah, you can ask us anything you want, folks. If anything about maybe Christmas, films, TV, you name it. Send your questions in, and me and Johnny will be on for a Christmas Day special, going through that. So if you find yourself after you unwrap your presents and eat all your selection boxes with a bit of time on your hands, then you can fire that show on and have a chuckle, I'd imagine. 26th, of course, we're Rangers back in action. We've got the pre and the post-match show from the game against St Mirren down in Paisley. Then we've got the morning briefing as normal on December the 27th, so the Friday. We're back on as normal. So show on as normal tomorrow and again on Friday. So there you go. You won't miss your fix, Joshua, this week.
No, and then the 28th is a weekend. There's actually a full schedule on our Twitter page if people want to see that. A nice graphic. 28th, no show. 29th is pre and post match. The Motherwell game. 30th will be 30th. I think will be live as well in the morning, and then the 31st too could be wrong. It's obviously press conference.
Hogmanay. We're on at 9:30, and the 30th we're on at 9:30, and then
no show on the first. No show on the first. You'll be recovering, and then the second, we'll have an extended show in the morning ahead of the Old Firm game. All three of us. So yeah, lots of Rangers content to come because there's 3 matches in 10 days or something like that. So yeah. I don't know if did you watch the Spurs Liverpool game yesterday, which is just absolutely.
I did actually.
Crazy,
yeah,
wasn't it?
Actually, weirdly, I was so shattered from the day before. I actually fell asleep at one point in the second half, which was nuts because the goals were flying in all over the place. But yeah, I did enjoy it. It was good. It just sums up Spurs, of course.
Crazy.
Play the same way despite that not having the personnel. Liverpool are just a step above, aren't they? I think they're a shoe-in to win the league. But yeah, it was enjoyable to watch, I've got to say. So yeah, tell you what, they're clinical in front of goal, Joshua.
They are. They're also probably the best team in the world at the moment. So it's quite a high bar, but it's a different sport watching that game. But yeah, entertaining. I can't remember why I brought that up. I don't expect Rangers to have as many goals as that over the festive period, but you know, St Mirren and Motherwell away is not 2 games that scream out brilliant games of football to me. Maybe I'm being unfair, but to be fair, Motherwell's pitch looked brilliant on the against Kilmarnock, so fair play to their ground staff. But yeah, we'll see. Remember the Motherwell game? I think last year the Motherwell game was on the 26th, and it was the wind was kind of stopping a game of football being played from 30 minutes in. So we shall see. Yeah,
the 2 fixtures scream out weather conditions. I just hope it's not blowing a gale and Rangers can play the football that they want to play and go and get 3 points in both. Right, that'll do us there. Big thanks to Joshua, as ever. Big thank you to you all for tuning in to the show. Tell you what, for those of you that are extra members, we'll record a Q&A show this afternoon. This is just Rangers questions, so yeah, get your Rangers questions in. I pop the link on the community page as we always do. So we'll be back in the afternoon. We'll call it 2 p.m. As we normally do for that Q&A show. Fingers crossed that we can record this time. Those of you that tuned in, I think a couple of weeks ago, it was not my microphone or anything to do with me. It was a StreamYard worldwide issue. Not just StreamYard. I think YouTube was having an issue as well. It might have been a Microsoft thing, a bit of a glitch. So yeah, we will be back for the Q&A show, the Christmas Q&A at 2 p.m. this afternoon for those of you that are on the Extra channel. Right, we'll call time there. If I don't speak to you later, have a good day, and we'll chat to you a little later on. Bye for now.